When the Washington machine panics, they scramble. Dan Bongino, the new FBI number 2 fighter for truth, you're all familiar with him, just requested a 20-man security detail. Ask yourself, why? James O'Keefe, the left's worst nightmare. Well, he just came out. Says his next expose scares him more than anything else, and says he's going dark before the release. Hiding from what? And President Trump? Man, he just drops everything. He drops the ultimate legal nuke, hinting it's suspending something that has been contested before and will be contested again if he moves forward. Are mass deportations incoming? Is the inside establishment about to be crushed, or are they planning their counterstrike and these men are preparing? The fuse is lit now. And today, we light it all the way to D.C., and those are the stories I'll bring you here in just 1 minute. And I can't believe I missed this yesterday. This interview between ABC News and President Trump. And I want you to watch Trump's reaction to this. There's far more behind this than just a simple soundbite. Listen in here for 1 moment.
A legal note fraud is a crime. There have been no referrals to the Justice Department on any of
Well,
these.
you don't know that, do you? How do you know that?
Have there been referrals to the, are there criminal referrals?
How would you know that there were no referrals? I think there were referrals.
They generally, all right, there's been no investigation from the Justice Department.
How do you know that?
I'm asking you, sir.
No, you're not asking me. You made a statement. You're not
now
asking
I'm asking
me.
you.
That was a statement that you made. There had
now
been.
I'm asking you.
Have there been? Yes, there have.
So there have been referrals for fraud.
How do you know that? Was he just deflecting? I don't think he was just deflecting. I think the question was legitimate. Who's your source? How do you know that? There's no way you should possibly know what's going on here. But you see, there's a lot of that going on right now in Washington. It appears there's a lot of inside sources. You see Hegseth trying to purge people out. You see Kristi Noem trying to purge people out. They are fighting the machine. A machine that just doesn't stop. And so what does Trump and his administration have to do? They have to move faster. They have to get in front of this. But that's a challenge and a struggle and a dangerous mission. Now, every day we see little movements. You remember this picture, the famous kneeling of the FBI. Well, the FBI is caught up with them, and we're going to come back to the FBI here in a minute with something that just happened to Dan Bongino. FBI reassigns agents from iconic photo of them kneeling during George Floyd protest. Well, it's about damn time, but it is the talking points that will drive you insane. The Federal Bureau of Investigations has reassigned several agents who were photographed kneeling with demonstrators during a 2020 protest in the wake of the police killing of George Floyd. People briefed on the matter told CNN. This notion that the Bureau would go after these people, it's just disgusting. Seriously. No. This is disgusting. And to add insult to injury, this was disgusting. And so they've taken action now. So what say you? Is it disgusting or righteous what the FBI just did? Pretty simple. Disgusting or righteous? Because I can't wait to see your opinion. I know what mine is, but there's a lot going on right now that's not just, we're living now in the era of insanity. Nothing makes sense anymore. And this will get worse. 19-year-old charged with setting fire to Tesla vehicles at Kansas City dealership released from custody. Released. Who's the suspect? Owen McIntyre. The 19-year-old accused in federal court of damaging 2 Tesla Cybertrucks. And why was he released? According to federal court documents, McIntyre's attorney argued he should be released, citing several serious and ongoing medical needs. And what are those medical needs? Undergoing treatment for depression and is receiving gender-affirming care that began in March of this year, and that care would likely be interrupted or terminated in federal custody. You committed a crime. You belong in custody. Do you think everybody else gets the same consideration when they're put into custody? If they're going to be depressed because they're in custody, which would be everyone who goes into custody, but no, not here. We're just going to release. I'm speechless on this one. There's so much I want to say, but I also want to make sure the video stays up on the public platform, so I won't. But I'm sure you understand exactly my aggravation. But thankfully, the Senate is incompetent. Senate resolution to scrap Trump's Liberation Day tariff fails despite some GOP support. Their incompetency allowed this to roll forward. Now we had several Republicans and independents voting on with the Democrats: Rand Paul, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski. But even with their assistance, they still couldn't stop him. And why? Because a few people decided not to show up. Sheldon Whitehouse, well, he wasn't in attendance to vote. And then it's being argued that Mitch McConnell chose not to be the deciding vote, so he also was absent. Wasn't that convenient? Man, normally you stand against everything we believe in, Mitch, but I guess not this time around, huh? But nonetheless, the ineptitude and incompetence of the Senate once again shines through in the presidential branch. For now, the executive branch, the office of the president, gets to roll forward. But remember what I talked about insanity? What you're about to hear as we progress into this broadcast is moments of grave concern. Now, some may be theatrical, such as this one. Listen here for a moment to investigative journalist James O'Keefe.
I'm going dark. I'm not suicidal. Pray for me. This one scares me, guys.
Simple statement. Now, James does have the tendency or flair for the dramatic. Granted, you need to in any conservative journalism. It's the only way you get anyone to pay attention, and you can actually beat some of the algorithm. Benny Thompson calls this out, challenges him a bit further, but then we get further details on exactly what may be coming.
Follow-up. This is Acorn 2.0, or is it bigger?
No, it's much bigger because we're talking about corrupt government graft and corruption. Billions with a B. Billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars. Stay tuned.
And to go along with that, he has 5 or 6 tapes, and if they don't lead to indictments, he will go insane. We have them breaking the law on camera, and what does he do? He makes the announcement that he's going dark. He's put out a lot recently. I think it's time for citizen journalists to release more on Epstein. If they're going to kill us, they have to kill us all, coming soon. So is this a subsequent release? James onto something here? He's done a great job. People will say, well, those are low-level players. Well, you think the high-level players are going to make those mistakes? No. But you have to start somewhere. It doesn't mean where there's smoke, there's going to be fire. And James has done a great job of that. But now the danger level goes up even further. The threat level goes up even further. Listen in to hear what Marco Rubio announces. Something that the Biden administration was doing, and they now have the dossiers to back it up.
Something else we got out of the business of, well, it wasn't widely reported, or maybe it was. We had an office in the Department of State whose job it was to censor Americans. Yeah. And by the way, I'm not going to say who it is. I'll leave it up to them. There's at least one person at this table today who had a dossier in that building of social media posts to identify them as purveyors of disinformation. We have these dossiers. We are going to be turning those over to these individuals.
Dossiers. There's at least one person at this table who has a dossier in the building with names listing who the Biden regime worked intentionally to censor. Well, that shouldn't shock anyone. Why would it, right? But this should shock everyone. It's not some innocuous story. I'm going to tell you the spin they're putting on this. FBI creates multi-agent bodyguard team to protect Dan Bongino. You'll be disgusted by the response here. But why? Is the question. We're going to go through details of this and the announcement Trump just made that may have put the entire DC establishment into a state of panic and worse, fury. Now, I hope you all got over to Restricted Republic. So many of you joined yesterday. Thank you for that. To see this amongst many other exclusive content videos that Lisa and I do. As a matter of fact, you want to see them all. The catalog doesn't stop. This is all just a portion of the exclusive content at Restricted Republic that we work day and night to provide you. I can keep going. And this is only the exclusive portion of the website. Lisa Haven and I created this for you. We created it to give you a bastion of truth. Your means of supporting me, there's multiple ways. First, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Means the world to me. Make sure your bell is checked all. You also have membership here on this platform. And those of you who have joined, thank you so very much. It actually keeps the lights and cameras on. There is an expense to all this. The super thanks you provide, man, those are just moments that warm my heart. And those, every time I see a new name come up on We Join the Restricted Republic family, there is nothing better. That gives you all the news, everything we broadcast, all in one platform. We take all the commercials and interruptions out, and then we add the exclusive content daily for you. It is your one source for news in the way I provide it to you, black and white. And if you appreciate that, I want you over there today. I want you to sign up. You can always cancel your subscription via your own dashboard at any time as long as you do it before your subscription renews. No harm, no foul, because we know our content will keep you there. And that is why when we were at one of our lowest points, we forward spent to assure you got the truth, because that's how much it means to Lisa and I at restrictedrepublic.com. Get there today. But now let's get back to this broadcast. So this story, FBI creates multi-agent bodyguard team to protect Dan Bongino. Last week, a message sent to FBI agents, known as a canvas, asked for volunteers to leave their jobs temporarily to serve on a protective security detail for Bongino. The canvas sought agents willing to relocate for 30 days of temporary duty to protect Bongino 24 hours a day. According to two former FBI officials familiar with security details, full-time protection could require as many as 20 agents. But why? Now the counter spin to this. The former official said that Bongino could also go through the process to be qualified by the FBI to carry a handgun, but that he has chosen to use a full detail. Dan Bongino, who is also a portion of the Secret Service, knows how to use a handgun. But the threat must be larger than that. No matter what they tell you. Frank Fugazi, an NBC News contributor, criticized Bongino's decision to not simply carry a weapon, as past deputy directors have done. You think past deputy directors were under the same threat level the Trump administration is? Give me a break. Of course he could carry. This is ridiculous. The question is, what is the actual risk and threat here? I bet you'd like to know, wouldn't you? But Dan has told us many, many times there's things you know and there's things you don't. Or does he simply want a security detail? This is taxpayer money we're talking about, because now suddenly the Democrats care about taxpayer money. Just watching these arguments is ludicrous. Listening to them, reading them is ludicrous in itself. All about he had won. Well, he wasn't under the same threat level of the Trump administration. Two former FBI officials familiar with the matter said Bongino's current bodyguards have followed him inside secure FBI facilities, including headquarters in Washington. They said directors typically walk around headquarters without security detail. You see, all the indicators are there. Is this an inside threat? How could we think it wouldn't be? Look how much the Trump administration is being pushed back against. Dan Bongino's even talked about a portion of this. Your comments and criticisms are not only welcome, but they're helpful. We work for you, the American people. Your feedback is invaluable. All I ask is that you consider the following feedback to the feedback. When you see something happening, and the entire story isn't public, and the underlying facts aren't all public, It may appear counterintuitive to our reform agenda. I promise you it's not an accident. Ask yourself, why would I sign on to something like this otherwise if it's desire to be wealthy, famous, connected, or to be a future lobbyist? If that sounds ridiculous, it's because it is. I realized when I signed up that I'd never be able to fully explain some decisions we make due to legal and ethical constraints, but that's a pill I agreed to swallow when I swore in. In conclusion, I realize asking you to trust me is wasted time. Watch what happens. Continue to demand results. Be cautious of narrative traps. Let time put the pieces of the puzzle together, and what we're doing will all make sense. And it appears now what they're preparing to do now may require a very large security detail to protect. And as with the entire administration, Dan, you have my prayers. You have my support. There's nothing you've ever said that has led us astray. Of course, so many people miss you on the air, but if I got the call, I'd be in the same position you are right now. I promise you that, because my country comes first. And God bless you for doing it. But that wasn't the only monster announcement, no. You see, this battle on immigration reform is culminating in absolute lunacy on the left. They can't handle it. Trump administration revokes 4,000 foreign student visas in first 100 days, nearly all with serious criminal records. But I guess that's not good, right? Nearly all with serious criminal records, and people are complaining about this. And they're even sitting in the room with the cabinet, and they challenge Marco Rubio, and he does a fantastic job on this one, because we have to hear about Kilmer Garcia again.
You brought up El Salvador in your remarks. Have you been in touch with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia as a formal request from this administration to me?
Well, I would never tell you that. And you know who else I'll never tell? A judge. Because the conduct of our foreign policy belongs to the President of the United States and the executive branch, not some judge. So we will conduct foreign policy appropriately if we need to. But I'll never discuss it. And no one will ever make us discuss it, because that's how foreign policy works.
Pretty clean, pretty concise, pretty easy. But for me, it was Hegseth's reaction that absolutely cracked me up. He's got to have when he starts with his little smirk, like, oh, there he goes. Because it appears there's a great deal of respect for Marco Rubio, who I've struggled with in the past. But Trump's reaction and Hegseth's reaction tells you something entirely different. They trust him to deliver the messages in the matter that they deserve to be delivered, because these sons of guns, I know I avoided cursing, worked hard at that, deserve to be shredded apart in the way Marco Rubio just shredded them. This is our national security at stake, no matter what judges are attempting to fight it. But it appears now Trump may be indicating another plan is in place, and this will be one of the most controversial of all. President Trump hints at suspending the writ of habeas corpus to conduct mass deportations. Let's listen to what he said first, then I'll come back to give you the definition of what this is all about.
You mentioned this last night in your speech in Macomb, that we're facing an unprecedented situation where there's a lot of abuses of nationwide injunctions, sort of seemingly designed to curtail your power, specifically when it comes to deporting these illegal, violent aliens that came in under the previous administration. Have you spoken to your team about ways to mitigate this and continue to deliver for the American people on
well,
that
there
aspect?
are ways to mitigate it, and there's some very strong ways. There's one way that's been used by three very highly respected presidents, but we hope we don't have to go that route. But there is one way that has been used very successfully by three presidents, all highly respected, and hopefully we don't have to go that way. But there are ways of mitigating that. I want to thank you all.
That was an extremely strong indicator. If you don't know what habeas corpus is, it's the suspension clause that has been used by three presidents as announced. And let's go through a common interpretation. The suspension clause protects liberty by protecting the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus. It provides that the federal government may not suspend this privilege except in extraordinary circumstances when a rebellion or invasion occurs and the public safety requires it. And there is your argument point. Is illegal immigration, as they stated here, an extraordinary circumstance that could be considered a rebellion or an invasion? If Trump deems it as such, U.S. undocumented population increases to 11.7 million in July of 2023. We know that number escalated from there. So, is that again an extraordinary circumstance? And is that again, could it be considered an invasion? If it is, appreciating the significance of this restraint first requires understanding the writ of habeas corpus. This writ, which Americans imported into the Constitution from English common law, is a means by which a prisoner can test the legality of their detention. A person who believes they are being imprisoned illegally can file a petition asking a judge to issue a writ of habeas corpus. When a prisoner files a petition for a writ, their custodian must explain why the restraint is lawful. If the explanation does not satisfy the court, which we know in this court system every single one would be satisfied, it will order the custodian to release them. This writ is thus a crucial means by which a prisoner can obtain freedom. If you suspend that request can no longer come through. Trump would have the right to do what he deems is desirable to the interests of the United States of America, as we gave him a mandate to do so, and roll forward at a pace unseen before. This clause does not specify which branch of government has the authority to suspend a privilege, but most agree only Congress can do it. President Abraham Lincoln provoked controversy by suspending the privilege of his own accord during the Civil War, but Congress largely extinguished challenges to his authority by enacting a statute permitting suspension. On every other occasion, the executive has proceeded only after first securing congressional authorization. The writ of habeas corpus has been suspended 4 times since the Constitution was ratified. The Civil War, in 11 South Carolina counties overrun by the Ku Klux Klan, during Reconstruction, in 2 provinces of the Philippines during a 1905 insurrection, and in Hawaii after bombing of Pearl Harbor. The most hotly debated questions concerning the suspension clause involve its effect in the absence of a formal suspension, but we have a ruling on this. We have a ruling as recently as Guantanamo Bay. After the attacks on 9/11, as America waged 2 wars abroad, all 3 branches of the federal government, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial, fought over the balance between national security and civil liberties, fighting over the writ of habeas corpus. And what did the U.S. Supreme Court rule? Guantanamo detainees are entitled to it. So now we have a precedent, and we have a battle brewing. And we have what could be the most controversial maneuver that Trump will make if he was to invoke his rights to do so. Folks, what do you think? Will he do it? Was it a threat? Or should he do it? Questions that resound and resonate through each and every one of us every day as we're watching this battle between the executive and the judicial branch. And it doesn't stop. But now you understand why. All of a sudden, maybe James O'Keefe is going undercover. Maybe you understand why Dan Bongino is calling for a security detail. Because the threat level continues to escalate. The deeper and more entrenched the administration gets, and the more players that they identify are working against the mandate for change that we the people provided President Donald J. Trump. Major broadcast today, man. This one was shocking to work through. I hope I made it very black and white for you. If I did, make sure you throw it in the comments below. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.